Hello everyone, welcome back to the classes on microbiology made easy. Today's topic is on rabies virus. After high demand from students who have come with a lot of suggestions, reviews and feedback, I'm really thankful to you for subscribing, liking and sharing the videos which is on the YouTube. Fine, let's go to the next slide. What is so common among the images that is displayed on this slide? We have bats, we have wild cats, we have raccoons, we have dogs, jackals, hyenas and all. So it's nothing but most of the people had something that's going through behind their brain, and it's going to talk on today's topic, that is a very fatal disease called rabies, which belongs to the family Rhabdoviridae. And yes, there are two genera in that. That is, one is vesiculovirus, Lassa virus. Lassa virus is what is very important for us. The name itself, Lassa, indicates rage or furious, which is a synonyms for the term rabies. In this serotype 1 is where we have the rabies virus, in which we have the street virus and the fixed virus. You don't have to see that your neurons herniate, but it's very easy. Just think about a street life and a very fixed restricted life, so that will make you to remember this slide very easy for you. Yeah, street virus are freshly isolated. They are wild basically. You can have negri bodies in them and they affect the salivary glands. Very important is the pathogenic. So you have people who are on the streets, they are very wild, they are very pathogenic compared to fixed restricted viruses which are not pathogenic, which basically they are opposite of what the street virus consists of. And the incubation period is much 1 to 3 months, takes its own time, whereas here it's very less. And yes, definitely street viruses produce disease, and the fixed viruses are used for vaccines through serial passage and all. So that's how you remember the difference between a street virus and a fixed virus. Transmission, yes, everybody knows most common route of transmission is through a dog bite, rabies, dog bite, which you have also been taught during your school ages and all. There are also some fruit-eating bats which can also be responsible, but mostly gets unnoticed. Bats, as you can see, are mostly in this news these days because of your also Ebola virus or your Zika and your coronavirus, which also have been source of transmission, the saliva. Yeah, and human to human transmission is very rare in case of rabies. Let's come to the pathogenesis. After contact, this virus basically is a dog bite, as I said, and yes, it bites. The virus binds to the peripheral nerves. Just follow the track. So this is the dog which bites, and this virus replicates locally in the muscle and connective tissue, that is a skeletal muscle. Mostly, as you know, that we use the arms, it might be the legs or the hands we use, and the virus binds to the acetylcholine receptor at the neuromuscular junction. Then centripetal retrograde spread, basically it's like from the down to the top. Retrograde spread, centripetal spread along the motor nerves, then go into the dorsal root ganglion, then the spinal cord, ascends towards the CNS, disseminates to the hippocampus and the cerebellum, especially the Purkinje fibers. Finally, then it goes centrifugal spread along the salivary glands, skin, cornea and the other glands. That's the reason why the specimens are here, the nape of the skin, head, the cornea or the salivary glands secretions. So this is how it spreads. Yeah, incubation period is mostly like, as we said, like days, 20 days, 90 days and all. But mind you all that it's inversely proportional to the distance of the virus to the travel from the site of inoculation to the CNS. So more close the bite is close to the brain and the spinal cord, more fast is spread, or might less the incubation period. I think 12 mm per hour is the rate of spread. Yeah, what does it cause exactly? Non-specific. I'm not going to much details of the clinical illness. It causes non-specific flu-like illness initially. Then you have once the CNS get affected, then you have the hydrophobia, the seizures coming in, then altered sensorium, then hallucinations, coma, and finally death if untreated. Diagnosis mostly very strong clinical suspicion, history of dog bite with nice signs and symptoms would really help you out to come for the clinical diagnosis, or else specimens from this your nape of the neck, or might be after the that is the post-mortem brain biopsy, Negri bodies can be found out after you do a staining or histopathology biopsy slide. We'll study about that later on. Then you can also depend upon the direct immunofluorescence stain, where you take impression smears of the corneal epithelial cells. Finally, last but not usually done as the polymerase chain reaction. Yes, let's come back to the Negri bodies, which is very important high yield area. Might be right from second year to any competitive exams. It's basically 3 to 24, 27 microns. You describe it as intracytoplasmic eosinophilic inclusions with characteristics basophilic inner granules. So initially we have already talked about this, the topic inclusion bodies, in my previous video which I have posted on YouTube, that is general virology. Inclusion bodies was a very high yield topic. In that I have already quoted that intracytoplasmic you have Negri bodies as one of the example. They are round to oval, purplish pink. They, what do they exactly consist of? They composed of rabies virus proteins and the viral RNA, as you can see in the pic that is depicted over here. And I already said during the root and retrograde spread, these Negri bodies are formed in the neurons of the Purkinje cells of the cerebellum and the hippocampus. Yeah, commonly used stains are histological stains like HNE stains, hematological eosin, and cellular stains, which consist of basic fuction and methylene blue in methanol. Or you can also go for histoimmunochemistry, where peroxidase labeled specific antibodies are used to detect these viral inclusions in formal fixed tissue. So basically it's more of histopathology and the pathology department who takes care of this. Yes, but yes, Negri bodies is only pathognomic of rabies, where may not be detected again in 20 to 20% of the cases. Laboratory diagnosis, yes, you have antigen detection, you have antibody detection. Direct immunofluorescence is very important test. Please remember this. Most commonly asked question, which is the gold standard test, which because it has high specificity and sensitivity. Nothing but this rabies nucleoprotein antigen is normally binded with specific monoclonal antibodies tagged with fluorescent dye. I think we skipped the slide of the morphology of rabies. It's a bullet-shaped virus. It's a bullet-shaped virus with this nucleoprotein which we are talking over here, and it has a M protein. It has a M protein in this nucleocapsid layer, and then you have a lipid bilayered lipid envelope with the spikes. So that's how the rabies virus is. It's a bullet-shaped virus. Okay, so the best specimen is hair follicle of the nape of the neck. Most sensitive, you don't miss it basically, because it has, as you can see, it has again centrifugal spread. It has get itself lodged in one of the hair follicle near the nape of the neck or the salivary glands secretions. Yes, corneal impression smear is also can be done. Usually positive in late stage with sensitivity of 30%. Immunohistochemistry, which you have already seen, where you can take the help of the antibodies to detect the antigen. Antibodies, not much done. Here you need the CSF in which the antibodies are detected. You just have to write this. I mean, not that high yield area as compared to your antigen. Then you have to just remember this indirect fluorescent assay or hemoglobin inhibition test or complement fixation test. You don't have to remember all these things, though they are not that high yield area. Virus isolation, yes, as I already said, again in your general virology, mice and guinea pigs are most commonly used. Here you use the intracerebral inoculation with the suckling mice, especially, where suckling mice is also used in Coxsackie virus. When you inoculate this virus, it causes encephalitis and death. Again, you can take a biopsy of the brain to demonstrate these Negri bodies, and do a direct fluorescent antigen test, direct immunofluorescence to demonstrate this antigen. Yes, cell lines, you have the baby hamster kidney cells, which the advantage over mice inoculation is it will take 2 to 4 days. And this viral growth is again detected by direct immunofluorescence using specific antiserum. Histopathology changes, yes, when you take up the tissue of the infected part, you can see mononuclear cell infiltration, perivascular cuffing of lymphocytes, Babe's nodules consisting of glial cells, and the Negri bodies as such there. So not much high yield from microbiology point of view, but yes, pathology when it is concerned, this definitely counts. Treatment, no specific treatment for rabies. You don't have to be very apprehensive about that. Very symptomatic treatment may prolong life, but the outcome is almost fatal. So what you have to do exactly, first isolate the patient, very important. You have special health centers where you have fever clinics, you have rabies, tetanus, diphtheria. Definitely you have to isolate this case of rabies. You might have gone through videos in many of the YouTube where I mean WHO also has, I think, what shared a video on that. Please uh, go through that videos how the person of rabies is affected. So you have to protect him as far as possible from external stimuli such as bright light, because he has a photophobia and aerophobia, cold air which can precipitate spasms. Yes, sedative and anti-anxiety drugs such as morphine can be used, SOS, and hydration and urination should be properly maintained. This was one of the questions asked 3 years down the lane. Which of the virus depicts this image that is displayed over here? So it's a bullet-shaped virus that goes for rabies. Prevention, yes, not very important from microbiology point of view. Again, yeah, though 1 or 2 slides content, but I have kept about 10 or 12 slides so that rabies is a very important common disease that, I mean, and anybody can just go through the dog bite today, tomorrow, or whatever in future. And as a healthcare worker, as a doctor, you should be well versed with the conceptual knowledge of how to give an advice to the household members or neighbors and all, because then you might be one of the person who might be called at that time. At least a proper advice, or at that time as an emergency physician you should take an action. So keeping that in mind, and also your community medicine and your what do you call your emergency medicine or general medicine, I thought I would cover about 10 to 12 slides in this. Fine. Post exposure prophylaxis. Once you have a rabies dog bite, local wound care is very important, and followed by active and passive measures. So what do you do with the local wound care? You do the physical cleansing. You don't have to do anything, just put the hand below the running tap water. You don't have to squeeze or suck that area and all. That are all old and obsolete measures. Chemical inactivation, if you have any antibiotics, go for povidone iodine solution, or alcohol can be used to inactivate the residual viruses at that site. Yeah, and if you have an anti-rabies immunoglobulin immediately with you, or might be near your clinic, or where you can suggest the patient to run about, go there, ASAP, give an anti-rabies shot to that patient. Devitalized tissue should be debrided, uncompromised debridement should be done. Then safe side, go for tetanus prophylaxis also, because there will be much of soil and other contamination. Antibiotic treatment is initiated to prevent secondary bacterial infection over that area, because there is almost a scratch or aberrated area, or what do you call, a laceration area. Suturing is contraindicated in this case, especially if it's rabies, because you might again transmit the virus from one site of suture to another site. Passivation, we were talking about passivation. Yes, there are two types: equine rabies immunoglobulin, which is when the only disadvantage is associated with serum sickness. Yes, this is very good. Human rabies immunoglobulin is very good. It's devoid of any side effects. Should be infiltrated into and around the wound, and remaining volume should be given deep intramuscular in the gluteus at a site distant from the vaccine injection site. Coming to the initially that was passive immunization. Coming to the active immunization, we have neural vaccines, prehistoric. Then we have the non-neural vaccines. The only disadvantage was encephalotogenic reactions were occur because they were prepared from sheep. No longer used since 2004. Very poorly immunogenic, and involved lot of serious risk of neurological complications, like simple vaccine, beta propanol vaccine, and infant mousebreak vaccine. So what has come out is they have gone for non-neural vaccines, especially the egg-derived vaccine, the allantoic cavity, which again I have taught you. You have four areas where you have to, in the embryonated egg, you remember yolk sac, amnion, allantoic, and your chorioallantoic membrane. Allantoic cavity is where you prepare the vaccines. So rabies vaccine, especially the Flurry vaccine, is also prepared there. So you purified duck embryo vaccine is one. 2, live attenuated chick embryo vaccine is used. But again, this is now obsolete. Then we have gone to more advanced vaccination, that is using the recombinant viral vaccines and the cell culture derived vaccine, especially the purified chick embryo cell, the purified Vero cell, and the human diploid cell. Yeah, national guidelines on rabies prophylaxis. There are two regimens over here. I would like to consider SN regimen and the Thai Red Cross regimen. Yeah, 5 doses are given in case of SN regimen, that is at on the day 0, 3, 7, 14. These numbers are very important. Question normally asked in most of the competitive exams or community medicine or microbiology in Viva and all. And fine. This was the IEM regimen. The ID regimen goes by the Red Cross, where you have to give in 5 doses on days 5 days. This involves the 0.1 ml of reconstituted vaccine on 2 sites per visits. On which days? 0, 3, 7 and 28. So these days are very important. This is the question that might you expect as an option in competitive examination. Singular intramuscular dose should have a minimum potency of, this is the strength of the dose, 2.5 international units. And yes, deltoid region is the ideal site and gluteal region is not recommended. Infants and young children, you can use the anterolateral part of the thigh. There are 3 categories which the WHO has and the national guidelines have come to. Category 1, 2. Category 1, there is no risk, where you only the patient gives you a history of touching or feeding of animal licks on intact skin, so no treatment needed if history is reliable. Category 2, where there is minor risk, minor scratches by the dog's teeth or abrasions without bleeding and nibbling of uncovered skin, then proper wound management, rabies vaccine, and observe the dog for 10 days. Category 3 major is where you have single or multiple transdermal bites with oozing of blood, then licks on broken skin, bite by the wild animals or the bats. Then definitely all 3 come into play. That is the wound management, the passive immunization and the active immunization, and keep observing the dog for 10 days. Yeah, let's coming to the people who are working in laboratories involved, or the patients with the rabies. Laboratory staff handling, clinicians, any person attending patients, veterinarians, all these people are more prone, so therefore they should go for pre-exposure prophylaxis. 3 doses are 0, 7, 21 or 28 days, either IM or intradermal, 0.1 schedule. So then also you have to keep checking every 6 months for 2 years, and thereafter every second yearly. And booster doses is advised only if the titer is less than 0.5 international units per ml. A regimen for post-exposure prophylaxis in previously vaccinated individuals. They might be persons who have vaccinated and they might have a fresh bite. So what do they have to do? Depends again on the antibody data. First you have to do an ELISA and see the severity of the wound bite, category 1, 2 or 3. If the severe bite and titer unknown, then 3 doses should be given at 0, 3, 7 days. Less severe bite and titer more than 0.5, 2 doses at 0 and 3rd day. Immunoglobulins are usually not needed in these kind of scenarios. Coming to the epidemiology, yes, it is enzootic and epizootic, both of wild and domestic animals worldwide. Another very important question which I would like to not close my presentation without discussing on this. There are few countries or places where they are rabies free. You have to have a list of this: Australia and Antarctica, Britain, Iceland and Ireland, China, Cyprus, Japan, Malta, New Zealand, and India. You have Andaman, Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep. Most common these rabies are mostly in Indonesia and Southeast Asian countries. Having said that, another question that was a simple question that was asked: the following image belongs to which virus? So they were asked one about the virus itself, then they asked about a negri bodies, and they asked to which virus does this belong to? Rhabdoviridae. Thank you very much. This is a slide, a summary kind of slide, where revised WHO guidelines for post-exposure prophylaxis against rabies 2019 has been circulated in almost all WhatsApp and might be also in the internet. You can browse through later on. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Looking forward to give me more views, and your suggestions, comments are well encouraged. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share the videos. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Hope to come back with more topics. God bless.